Good morning, my gorgeous friends on the internet. Today I want to discuss a topic that I feel like is very important and it has changed a lot in the past couple of years, which is state management in React and Next.js. So I know it's quite difficult to sometimes understand the concepts of how SSR works together with client-side rendering and all of that jazz. So I want to clarify all of that, all the way from just starting simple with useState, all the way to rendering content out with server components and then doing optimistic updates on the client. I also wanted to say that the full stack React course that I have on my website right now, which you can check out and purchase, I remade it pretty much and it's currently being refilmed. So that's really exciting. So if you want to check that out, developbyit.com. Down in the description, click the link, and thank you for all your support. Let's get going.
Hello, so let's talk about client-side rendering and kind of just going back in time, to, how we used to do things in React and explain that and kind of do my best to show you where we're going, because I know once I discovered SSR and optimistic updates and all of this jazz, I was like, what the fuck, dude, I don't understand any of this crap. So I'll try to show you to my best ability the difference between how we used to do things and where we're moving forward with Next 13 and API routes and full stack development and all of this jazz, all right? So let's talk about how we used to do things with just client-side rendering. Remember the days when you just install create React app? Yeah, those days. So what we theoretically do back then is just client-side rendering. And what that means essentially is the server would just send back a huge bundle of JavaScript, and that bundle of JavaScript would load up in the user's browser, right? And once that data loads up, you'd get to see everything, right? The benefits of that was that it was, once like the JavaScript loaded up, it would be super speedy and super fast because it would cache all the components for you. So navigating between stuff and clicking on different pages and going to different routes would be really quick. The downside of it was that loading that initial bundle of JavaScript could take ages theoretically. So the initial paint, like how long it would actually take for you to see the content pop through, would take quite a bit of time. Not only that, you wouldn't get the benefits of SSR, such as getting that first initial paint loading on the screen really quick with the HTML already loaded, which is why people say like, oh, it's good for SEO, because you're actually getting back that from the server, and that's very easy for the Google robots to read, I guess. Okay, so let's see how we implement that, right? So what you do probably is, okay, so let me show you kind of what I have. I'm in Next here, by the way, but it doesn't really matter. I'll just remove the async here, and it's pretty much like just a normal React component. And I'm just linking between two pages here because I want to illustrate a couple of things. Okay, so the way we do it is we'd like import useState, right? And then we'd have our use effect from React. Cool. Now I have some data that I'm gonna fetch. You can do like a placeholder data fetch. I just made a wee Postgres database here with like to-dos, right? So I just have like an ID and a title, and that's pretty much it. So let's import useState and useEffect. So since this is like a client component, I need to add useClient here at the top, just so it doesn't complain, because otherwise it won't work in Next. But other than that, it's pretty much like a simple React component, a functional React component. Okay, so how would we get this data? Well, I need to fetch it somehow, right? So I also need to make a state where I'd store that data. So let's say I have my posts, and set posts is equal to useState, and then we'll pass in an empty array. Cool, so this is empty now. That's perfectly fine. And then you'd use this useEffect, which pretty much is gonna fetch the data after the component has successfully mounted. So it's successfully rendered on the screen, it's gonna go out, and then it's gonna fetch data. So if I do a useEffect here, like that, and I'll just run an arrow function here, and I'll pass in an empty array here, basically meaning it should only render once when the component has successfully mounted. And now here, I also want to show you this really quickly. In my API, they also remade this in Next. I just want to talk a bit about it. It's the same kind of vibe that they're doing now with pages. So basically you do a slash, so it's in here, right? The folder, the API folder. And then you'd make another folder like slash posts. And then here you'd add a route TS. So I can make another folder in my API routes, maybe slash, I don't know, like user, like get user. And in there I can make another route.ts. So to actually hit that endpoint, you'd need to go to localhost 3000 slash posts, right? That's it. Sorry, slash API slash posts. And look at that. If we go here, we're going to get all the data back. All right, so kind of the same idea. Make a folder and then just add a route in there and then just hit the folder URL and then it's going to work. All right, and in here I just have, so this is how it looks now. I'll just show you this really quickly because I don't really want to make it about the new route system. But you'd export an async function and then you can actually define what type of method you want to use. So if you want to use a get or if you want to use a delete, you can separate them now, which is really nice. And then here I'm just making a Prisma call and I'm just saying, hey, find all the posts and then return it in this Next.js response. So return it as a JSON. And then the same here with the delete. And now I've noticed that if you want to get the body as well, I couldn't really find a better way, but request.json seems to do it. So if you're working with the new API routes, I just want to clarify this. If you want to get the body after you stringify it, this is how you can get it with request.json. Now, if there's a better way, let me know. Okay, so that's it. So in this use effect, we pretty much make a call, right? We'd say const, let's say get posts. I'll call this an async function here, like that. And here I'm gonna say const response is equal to await fetch, and I'm just gonna hit the slash API slash posts, right? So I just want to retrieve all the posts from there, and then const post is equal to await rest.json, and that should be fine for me. Cool. And then let's return all the posts. Okay, cool. All right, so just fetching that data, and then I'll just call it here so this use effect works. And after all of this, oh, actually in here, what I need to do is after I get that, set posts over to the posts response from here. All right, so just setting the state up here properly, and that should be all good. Okay, so I should pretty much have that data available for me. So if I go here and do a post dot map, and I'm gonna map over each post, right? And then here I can like return a div or something with the post ID or post title, I should say. All right, let's see if that works. And I refresh, and looks like it works. Cool. You can also add types to this if you want, see, because it's complaining now. What you can do is, let's just go here to the top, and I can say type of post is equal to, and I know it's gonna have a number on it and a title on it of string. Cool, so I can just pass this to the response here like that. Let's hopefully, oh, okay, looks like it's not assignable. Okay, so actually not here because we're using the state, so let's remove it. We can add it right here as a post, an array of posts like that. And that should fix our typing error. As you can see, type post, and then if I want to add a key here as well, I can do that easily with post.id. There we go. So it auto completes now. Cool. Okay, so that's kind of how we do things, right? Now, what's the problem with this now? Well, look, if I refresh the page, and even if I try to do like a network crap here where I slow it down, all right? Let's go back in time. That's like the dial connection. No, whatever. Okay. How'd I do it? Oh, here we go. let's drag this up, and then we'll do a slow 3G. So here's the problem. The hard reload, and look at that, this data is not gonna be here for quite a bit of time. Well, depends. See, nothing there. And then you wait for the JavaScript to load up, and then hopefully it'll pop through. Geez, okay. Well, it's taking time. So what we do in this case is we'd have to implement some sort of like spinner and loader to show that, hey, this is gonna be some data coming in here. So you'd see people do like posts, like if there's no posts here, or if the post, the like length is 0, right? And then I could like render out like a loading screen or something, or like, let's just do a H1 here, loading, dot, dot, dot. All right, let's do a refresh. I don't even need to do, see, there we go, loading, just to show that something is going on, and then you get the data back. So what was the problem with this? Well, spinners suck, bruh. Like, they're not nice. And not only that, another problem is this use effect. The problem is that it waits for all the whole component to render out and load up, and then it starts fetching the data. So it's going to be much slower, which is unfortunate. And also with use effect, it's quite easy to trigger this multiple times, unfortunately. So if you have a dependency array here that like, I don't know, maybe you're updating something else on the page, it can trigger a re-render if it has a dependency array. Maybe you have 2 in here. You can easily create infinite loops as well. And not only that, if I navigate over to dashboard and I navigate back home, it's going to try to refetch the data again. And as you can see, it's loading again. So it's doing another fetch API call over. And why? Because like the data's here already, nothing's changed. And not only that, we're fetching again. So that's kind of the disadvantage of this. And not only that, what if I want to share this state with someplace else in my code? Well, then I have to make another fetch call or potentially move this out from here and use a state manager. All right, so that's kind of how we did it. And then I'll tell you kind of where we went. So if you're sticking with front end, then something like React Query is going to help you loads. Because what React Query allows you to do is to do a request once and then cache that data. And then you can cache it on all the pages, and you can also make optimistic re-renders as well. And it also gives you kind of like a is loading function. So if we have a look here quickly, I'll just show you a 10 stack. Not only it allows you to fetch and where is like a quick start? I just want to kind of show it to you really quickly. Here we go. You pass in a query key that you can name it in any way, let's say to-dos, and then it's going to cache that for you with the function that you're passing through it. So if I call get to-dos, so if I call this anywhere else, it's going to get that same cached value for us. And then from there, you can do whatever you want, which is really nice. So I'd use React Query if you want to stick to the front end, because you have that data available through your whole app now. So if I want to get this and just pass it somewhere else, maybe in my dashboard here, let me just get rid of this. There we go. If I want to pass it in my dashboard here, I'd call that use query from React Query, and I'd get that data. But I kind of want to go over to Next.js side, because I feel like it's a bit more beneficial, because you can do server-side rendering with React Query for optimistic data, and then basically get the best of both worlds. So what's the current situation with Next.js? Well, the current situation with Next.js is that I can remove this use client and this use effect. We don't need to use these anymore. Remove this. Remove the use effect. So we pretty much get rid of use effect altogether. And now this is automatically a server component, so we can just add async here. So that's pretty cool, right? So what does that mean? That means that I can just directly fetch my data here without any issues. I have a picture up here because I saved it. So what we can do, let me close that up, is do a const post here and just fetch it directly from the server. Now, since, again, this is a server component, I can just import my Prisma here. What is it called? Prisma from /Prisma client. Cool. So I can just make my call here. Prisma dot post. I want to get all the posts. And let's do a find many. Cool. And then I'll just return the posts. Oops, I should have put this in a. Actually, I can just do that, and that should work fine. So that's it. One line. How cool is that? You just do one line of code. You get your posts, and you pass them in there, and that's it. Now you can separate these in your like own file if you want to, like just the fetching, just so it's not in like two places, because I have it here too, but it's 1 or 2 lines of code, so it's fine. So that's it. So by default now, this is going to be server-side rendered. So if I go over and to the inspect, and let's head over to the network, right? And we can do a slow 3G again. And if I do an empty refresh, now you're going to see the whole data come back without this loading up on the client side. It's going to be much quicker and with everything pre-rendered already, which is really nice. So let's let this load up for a second. Yeah, I don't know why I switched to the slow 3G, so let's just put fast 3G, but you're still gonna see it. So this is so annoying. Let's just go over to our dashboard, and then when we go back, you're gonna see that when we head back, boom, look, the data's already there. And not only that, after the first request, it automatically fetches that, caches that data for you. So if I go here to dashboard and go back, it should be like instant pretty much, because that data is not going to be fetched again. So that's pretty cool. Let's switch back to normal, no throttling. And then if we go over to dashboard, I want to show you this. So the first request here, when we go back home, that's going to be fetched. But after that, look at that. It's pretty much cached. So that's really awesome. So what's the situation with this? The only problem with this is when you want to delete something. So check this out. So if I go here and add an onClick, and let's say I want to run a delete function. Let's just do a console log now. Console log delete. Cool. Okay. Really cool. I guess I should run like an arrow function here. Cool. All right. So, oh shit, well, that doesn't work, right? Because this is you cannot do onClicks, you cannot do useState, you cannot do useEffect. Anything you think that you can do on the client, it's not gonna work in a server component. So if you add async and if you don't have useClient at the top, this is not gonna work. So what's the solution for this? Because loads of times you want things to like interact with. Let's say I want to click on one of the titles, and when I click on it, I want to delete it. Well, there's a solution. Just have your server component at the top, so the top level, right, your page, do your fetching for the data here, and then make a client component where you have that interactivity. So in this case, it's right here, right? So I take this bit of code here and separate it into a new client component. So let's go to our app. You can make like a components folder here if you want or whatever. I'll just add it here, because the way I like to work is I have my page here, and then if dashboard has any other components, I'll just add them to that folder. But in this case, this is like a root folder, so I'll just do it here. Let's call it posts.tsx. Very cool, very nice. Okay, so what can I do here? Well, let me have a think about it. Okay, let's go here now and remove this onClick that we had here, just so our component works fine again. Cool. And then we'll go over to this post that we made, and I'm gonna add useClient to the top. Nice. And then I'm just gonna export a default function of posts like that. And here I'm gonna return a div, and in this div we'll have our posts, right? Cool. So let's head over here. I'll also just quickly separate this type post here, maybe into its own folder. Let's see, types. Just copy paste this there because I'm going to reuse it. So let's call this post type.ts. There we go. So let's paste it there. Oh, this is giving me an error because it's an isolated module. Can I just do an export? Yeah, export type post. Perfect. So that's good. I'm just going to import it here to where we had it, just so it doesn't error out. Where was it? Where am I using that post? Oh, was it here? I think it was here, right? Wait, how does it know it's type posts? I'm not passing it anywhere. Maybe it needs to refresh. Okay, cool. Anyway, we'll do that in a bit. Let's head over to our posts. And what do I want to do? Okay, yeah, so basically I'm passing down the data here now, right? Because I can still do that. That's perfectly fine. So if I import my new client component here, and rather than doing that, I'm pretty much going to replace this with posts like that. And that should be okay. And then this is going to complain because, well, essentially I'm taking in the ID and the title here, right? Yeah, like that, post ID and post title. And then it's going to complain because it's not going to know the types of it. So I'm going to say post type here. What did I call this? Oh yeah, post type. Okay, so that should be from, and I probably should have done export. I think I can still do an export default post type here, like that. That should work. There we go. And then I get my post type in, and that seems to be fine. Okay, cool. What else do we need? And then this is going to complain, so let's also import post type from there, and then we'll just pass that, and this is going to be array, so we'll pass it as an array. So let's see if we get the autocompletes here as well. Oh yeah, something's funny happening here because I'm not passing it down. It should just be like that. And then here, let's see, look at that, we get autocomplete, so we know it's gonna take in a title and ID. So let's pass in the title, and as you can see, we can do post dot, and we get the autocomplete there as well. Okay, cool. So I just pass everything in post dot ID. Cool. Okay, done. And then in here, let's just add title in here, and then cool. I might need to add the key in here actually. Let's see if it's complaining about any keys. Okay, no. I guess if you're passing the key here, it's fine. If it complains, you can pass it to this diff, but it looks like it's working. Okay, so look at that. We don't have any errors. And now you can do this since you have onClient there. I can do onClick, and I can just run an arrow function here and say alerts. I don't know, like the title that I'm clicking on right now, right? So look at that. We have the interactivity. So what did we learn? Well, we can do server-side rendering, and then our interactive components can just use the useClient, and then here we can do our onClicks and everything. And there's a bit of a problem with this caching system in Next. I wouldn't say it's a problem, sorry, I should rephrase this. It's really good, it's amazing, and most of the time, that's pretty much all you need. Where it gets a bit tricky is if you want to share this cache data that I have here with other pages. As far as I know, there's not a real nice way, any way to really do that. You could theoretically copy and paste this over to your dashboard here and fetch it again. But as far as I know, it's still gonna fetch it once here and then cache it. There's no like a key value that you can pass in here to say, hey, if this ever gets called again, make sure you fetch it from the cache. And another thing is when you want to delete something. So here, let's say I don't want to alert, I want to delete, right? So let's just let me show you kind of the issue. So let's do a delete post, right? I'm gonna just set this equal to an async function. And here I'm gonna have like the deleted post, right, that I can pass through it. And this is a post type as well, so I can just pass in that. And here, basically, I'm gonna say const data equals await fetch, and let's go to that API point again. Okay, so slash API slash post. All right, but here my method is gonna be a delete. All right, so I want to send that post in and get rid of it, and the body is gonna be a JSON.stringify because I'm passing in an object and I can only pass strings in the body. So I need to stringify it, turn that whole object into a string and pass in this delete post. Again, this delete post is an object, if you remember. Sorry, deleted post, I should say. Be careful because this is delete post. Deleted post. As you can see, this has the title and the ID on here. All right, so it's an object. I'll rename this to delete handler just so it's not as confusing. Okay, cool. So that's it, right? We are sending this delete in, and that's gonna hit our route here, right? And it's gonna hit this. It's gonna get the requests. It's gonna get our object from request.json on the body here, and I'm just gonna do a Prisma call where I'm searching for the ID that's on the body ID that I just sent through here. Basically the one that we click on, right? I'm gonna send that through. So here I'm gonna do an on click, right? And what I want to execute is the delete handler with basically the deleted post. So with the ID and the title, like that. So that's pretty much, I mean, that's pretty much perfect. I can do const post await data.json as well to get the data back if I want to see it. Console log post. All right, so that's it. Now let's have a look and see what's going on. If we go to console and I click on this one, look at that. It went over to my route, it deleted the post, and it sent me back the deleted post, which is this one. Cool. But look at that, I can still see it on the screen. Now, why is that? Well, my data is still cached by Next, so nothing's really happening here until I refresh that cache. So if I refresh the page here, now it's gone. But I mean, there's no real clear way of seeing that change happening, which is quite annoying. So I really tried to look through the docs and everything and see kind of what's going on and what they're recommending. I mean, not a big fan, but what they're recommending to do right now, again, if you have a better way, reach out. You import, what the hell did they use again? I think just router from next/navigation. And this might be a use router if I'm not mistaken. And make sure it's from navigation and not next router because that doesn't work either. And then here, I believe they used to do something like this. Const route equals use router. And after everything is done, you do route.refresh. There we go. So after everything's done, it's gonna refresh the page for you. And there we go, it's gone now. But what's the problem with this? The problem with this is when I click on this, it's gonna take a while until the whole backend deletes the post. So it might take 2 seconds, it might take 5 seconds, who knows? But we'd have to wait for those amounts of seconds until it gets completed. And only then and there, the router is going to refresh and fetch the data again from the server, and then the cache is going to be gone. And this is cached again, so that's perfect. See, it's cached. But yeah. So what's the solution for this? Well, you can still use React query here, but rather than using route refresh, we can push in an optimistic update here which essentially means we're still fetching everything on the server, but we have that like speedy client-side performance here. I'm gonna warn you, the setup is a bit not too clean, not too nice, but we'll do it. So step number 1 is gonna be to install React Query. So let's head over to 10stack, and I just want you to install this and run this command. All right, so click here, get started, and then we'll head over to installation and make sure you run npm I 10stack React Query. Cool, after we've done that, now what we can do is we need a couple of files to set this up. And I mean, it's not super fun, but we'll do it. So first step is, and I also wanted to point out that their docs are a bit funny because it doesn't seem to be working. So you have to actually make some changes. So let's head over here, and then we'll head over to, where is the sucker? SSR with Next. All right, so if we scroll down here, this is what they recommend. So the first step is gonna be to scroll down all the way to version 13, which is somewhere down here, somewhere deep down the hole. I think this is the one. This might be the one. Yeah, Next with, here we go. Cool. So the first step is gonna be to create a provider JSX here for us. So let's head over here. I guess you could do like a util folder here that has all like the React Query stuff. So I'll just call this util like that. And then in here, I'll make a file called providers.jsx. I'm not gonna make this a TS file. It's gonna be fine. It's just to set up React Query. So I just copy and paste over everything from here. Oops. Should have copy and pasted the whole thing. Cool. So that's step number 1. Now this is gonna error out already because I'm not sure why they did this. Hopefully they can update it. It's importing React, but we're never importing React here. So we can import either React or just useState and then drop the React here in front. I'll just do React like that. Cool. So that's the provider. And I need to rename this. Oops. Where is it? Did I just delete it? Providers. JSX. Don't tell anyone. Okay. Let's copy and paste this, and then I'll explain what it does. All right. So there we go. And then let's import React. Right? Cool. Okay. So we need to create this provider to feed into our application. So basically, wherever we want our React Query and the caching and everything to be available on, we need to wrap it with this provider. All right, so we're basically importing Query Client and Query Client Provider. And here, I believe we're creating like a new instance of a Query Client for every user. And then what we do is we take this provider and we wrap it into our layout here. This way we still get to keep our layout SSR, which is really good. So let's import it here. Import providers, I should say, from dot slash, or is it dot slash util slash providers. Cool. So all we do is we go here, and as you can see, like they did it, we just wrap our children here, which represent all of our pages, with this provider. Nice. That's step number 1 done. And then there's 2 ways of doing this, which is with initial data and with hydrate. We're going to focus on doing it with hydrate because it's a bit easier to understand. Okay, so next up what we need to do is create this query client. And essentially this query client ensures that there's no data shared between any users or any requests. So just make sure that it creates a singleton instance of this query client. All right, so every user is going to have their own query client. So let's do it in this util again. So we'll just say get query client.jsx. Again, this is kind of like once you set it up, you just kind of copy paste everything over and then you should be good to go. All right. Now with this code here, there's a couple of problems. It's not going to work. It's going to error out. And the only fix I found for this is to actually set up SSR with React Query and Next.13 is to modify their docs. I found the open issue on GitHub, and what they recommend right now to do is in the get query client, change this from React Query, like they have it here, and change it to query core. All right, and then hit save on that again. And then here, and let's make sure everything is good. The provider can stay React Query, so that's fine. So this is perfectly fine. But down here, they recommend you to import hydrate from React Query again, which is going to error out again. So fix for this is to make another file that we're going to call hydrate client, let's call it, or just even hydrate should be fine. Let's call this new file, hydrate client.jsx. Okay, cool. Here I'm gonna make this a use client, and I'm gonna import hydrate from React Query. Again, this is the thing that errors out, so that's why I'm making a new file here and importing it with a use client, because we're using this in an SSR, see async hydrated post. So this is like an SSR component, the server component. So importing this won't work. So we're just making a new file for it to work. This might be changed in the future again. If they update the docs, let me know. I'm gonna import it as RQ. Let's do hydrate like that. React Query hydrate, and I'll also get the hydrate props here like that. And then I'm just gonna make a function called hydrate with the props of hydrated props, and I'm just gonna return this RQ hydrate. All right, with the props as well. I'm just gonna spread them here like that. Cool. And then export default hydrate. Okay, so just be aware. Why is this not working? Oh, I guess I made it a TSX. There you go. Okay, cool. So again, you might not need this in the future if they end up fixing this bug where you can just import hydrate and that's it. But for now, you have to make this goddamn file, but it's okay. All right, so those are the 3 files you need to get up and going. Okay, what do we do now? Let's close everything up. Okay, so we need to refactor this a wee bit. So we can keep this, that's fine. Well, it's not fine. What we need to do is just, I'll take this getting the post here, and I'll just separate it in its own little function. So I'll just say get the post and return post. Cool. All right, and then what we're gonna do is import a couple of things. I'm gonna get the get query client that we just made. Get, damn it, query client from dot slash, I think it's just dot slash util slash get query clients. Okay, so we're gonna import that as first. And now down here, I'm gonna say query client equals to get query client. All right, so I'm just invoking that and instantiating that for us. And then I'm gonna say await query client dot prefetch query. So this is gonna prefetch it on the server for us now, and it's gonna take in an array of keys. Now you can name this anything you want, just make sure you remember it. In this case, posts, right? This is what React Query is going to use for its mechanism to cache the post. So if it sees posts, and if I do another fetch somewhere else with the posts key here, it's going to know, oh, that's the same thing. So that's perfectly fine. And then it's going to take in for the second argument a query function. So in our case, all the get posts that we have here, right? And that's pretty much it. So that's all you need to really fetch it on the server. Get the client in and prefetch the queries here. And then you will have the dehydrated state available here for you. So dehydrate query client. There we go, just like that. Oh, look, it imported in as well, which is really cool. So essentially, we're getting back kind of the default query from our server, and we're going to dehydrate it here, and then pass it in here, and then hydrate it again, so we can use it and update it and modify it and do any other things with it that we want. So as you can see, it says here, use dehydrate to obtain the dehydrated state of the prefetch queries from the query cache. And then we'll pass in this hydrate. Basically, we wrap around our client component with this hydrate. Okay, so you can kind of think of this like as the initial data, and then we'll pass in I'll just shut up and I'll do it, okay? So here, now all you need to do is get the hydrate in from the query client. Now let's see how we exported it. Oh, as a default, cool. Okay, so I can just do import hydrate from there. All right, so I can get rid of this post.length too, because React Query is gonna offer us something much better. Now I don't have posts available here, unfortunately. So we'll just refactor this a little bit. So let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of that. And I'll just refactor it a bit and just pass in hydrate. And we'll do the mapping inside the component. So let's just clear that out. And this hydrate also takes in the state, which is the dehydrated state, right? So you pass in the dehydrated state and then it gets hydrated. Now our posts is going to need a couple of modifications because we're not taking in anything here anymore like that. So let's just clear that out. Okay, so that's gone, which is fine. We don't need to use router as well. Let's get rid of that. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. Just get rid of everything, actually. Just clear this out. Okay, so now what we can do, I'll just add a h1 here of posts. That's cool. We prefetched it here. And here we need to do the fetching again at the top. So we can just go here and say const data. And I have is loading available here as well. Which is what we can use rather than, you know, this post.length we have. You can just say is loading now. And that's it. And once it's loaded, it's going to get rid of this h1. All right, so there we go. So let's save that. Let's go here. Where was it? To the top. We'll just call use query here, like that. And again, this is going to take in two things, a query key. And if you remember, we called ours posts. So there we go. And then the second argument is going to be a query function. Now mine is really short, so I'm not going to bother separating it in another file or anything. I can just run an arrow function here and just do a fetch to /API/posts. And then I can just say, and after that dot then return me the res, like res.json, right? And that's it. I'll just keep it nice and short here. So there we go. You pass in the query key and whatever you want to fetch again. Cool. And after that, so we're fetching it here again. We're going to say const query client equals to use query client. We're going to import this like that. Now, this is not the query client that we have in our util file. You only use that when you prefetch data here in the server-side component. Okay, cool. So it looks like we are having errors again. And it's that error about that I was talking about with the hydrate. Yeah, not working. Oh, I think I found the issue. So even dehydrate here needs to be from React core. What is it? Core, query core. There we go. Let's hope that's gonna do it. There we go. Yes, finally. Cool. So let's refresh the page. All right, we're passing it down here. Cool. So again, remember we are so here in our get post, we're passing in the dehydrated state. So I'm gonna need to use this data function, this data here that we're getting back from the client query here, in case the data did change. So I'm gonna take this data and just render it out down here, kind of the way we did before. So I'm gonna say data.map, and here we have each individual post. And for each individual post, I'm gonna return a div like that. And then in here, I'll just say, I'll have a h1 with the post dot title, for example, right? I hit save, and look at that, we have it. And then I can also pass in the key if I want to. So I can do post dot ID, and that should be perfectly fine. And again, if you want to import the type here and pass in the type, you can do that as well. I believe you pass it in as a generic here. I totally forgot about this, but let's hope so. And I'll try to pass in an array here. Let's hope that won't complain. Looks like it works. It just says that it might be undefined. Let's see. Do we get post? Yeah. Okay. Cool. That's better than nothing. Okay. Anyway, so we have the data here. So what's the advantage that we have with this now? Well, it's going to prefetch the query here for us on the server, and then with the key that we have here, but once it reaches to the front end, in case the data changed, it's going to rehydrate it with the fresh data for us automatically here. So that's pretty banging. That's pretty cool. Not only that, what we can do now is optimistically delete one of these posts, for example, and we can do that on the client without worrying in case if it gets deleted on the server or how long it's going to take it. So we're going to do it on the client, and then whatever amount it takes for it to get deleted on the server, whatever, doesn't matter. So let me show you what we can do. This is like really cool. Okay, so we have our delete handler, which I believe we're pretty much going to keep untouched. I'm not going to console log this out anymore here. Just get rid of that. Okay, so basically what I want to do is on click, I want to delete this. So with React Query, you have access to something called mutation, and you can import use mutation here. So click on that, let's import it. And here, basically use mutation takes in a mutation function. So let's pass in the mutation function. In this case, it's our delete handler here, right? So let's pass in that. So that's my delete function. And then whatever I want to do whilst it's mutating. So I have access to an async function here where I get access to the deleted post, for example. Now, where is this coming from? Well, I'm gonna use it here basically when I add an onClick. I'm gonna set that equal to an arrow function that's gonna run mutation. So this here, right? Mutation dot mutate, and then I can pass in here whatever I want. In this case, my post, right? I want to send in the post that gets deleted. So this goes from here, my post, all the way in my mutation here, right? And this deleted post is going to represent that post data here. Cool. So now what we're going to do, since we have the deleted post here, I'm going to say await query client dot cancel queries. And I'm going to say the query key I want to cancel is going to be posts, like that. All right. What is that going to do? This essentially is going to stop any outgoing refetches. All right, we basically want to stop for a second here and kind of do our own thing. You're telling React query, don't do any refetches. I want to have total control about what we're going to do now. So cancel all the activities, all the refetches. And what I want to do is just get a snapshot of my current data. So whatever I can see now on my clients. So get a snapshot. So I can call this like previous posts. And I can say query client. And to actually fetch the cache data, you can do get query data. And you just pass in the array, like the posts array. And that's going to fetch in the cache already, just with one line of code. And after you do that, what you can do is say optimistically update the data. So what I want to do is say query client. I'm going to access whatever we have here on the cache, and I'm going to change it. I'm going to say set query data. I want to change the posts cache, and I just want to get the previous posts that we have here. And I'm going to filter out, and I'm going to say I have a post here, right? And I just want to say post.id. If that doesn't match the deleted post ID, right? Whatever I'm passing here in my mutate. So that, if it doesn't match with whatever is here, just get rid of it. This might throw a wee error here. It's going to say type unknown. It's fine. It's still going to work just fine. And at the end here, I'm just going to return previous posts. Sorry. Yeah, previous posts. That should be fine. Cool. So at the end, I'm still returning this cached data here because what I want to do essentially is on error or on like success, I want to run a couple more things here. So let's click on one and look at that. It instantly gets removed. How cool is that? And if I refresh now, as you can see, that data still stays deleted. All right, so that's essentially it. You get that live, really quick, deletion without waiting for the server to come back with the deleted data for you. But you might be wondering, well, what if the data did not get deleted on the server? I don't want to delete it here on the front end. Well, let me show you the awesome stuff about React Query. You can do on error here and just say error. You have access to your post and the context here. And then we can run an arrow function and we can say query client. So in case it failed, set query data. I'm going to get the posts, right? So in case it failed, I can have access to the previous post here by saying context dot previous post. All right, so in case something messes up, it's going to revert to it. So watch this. I'm going to say test. That's going to fail, obviously. So if I want to delete this, oh, it's gone. It's back now. Well, that should work, actually. Oh, it doesn't work because onSettled. So onSettled basically runs at the end of everything, right? Whether it's success or error, we can run the code here again. So basically onSettled here, what I want to do is say query client dot invalidate queries, which is basically going to just refresh the cache for you. Query key, and I'll just pass in the posts. Or sorry, it's going to do like a refetch for us. So take a look at that. I have test here, so I click on it. Look, it's back, right? I cannot delete it. It's going to bring back the previous one because we're erroring out on the server. So how cool is that? You get the instant feedback already here from the server saying, oh, can I remove that? Whoops. But if everything goes okay, fine, well, then I have my previous posts, and then I have that instant deletion, which is really cool. You also have on success here if you want to quickly see whenever your data finally gets deleted from the server. But as you can see, it's not going to happen instantly. So if I click here, see, it took a second for the on success to hit. I believe it's on context so you can actually pull in the real data, but it took like 2 seconds. But as you can see here, poof, instant deletion. So that's it. That's everything for me. Hope you enjoyed this episode. And yeah, I'll let myself speak at the end of this episode.
So that's gonna be it for me. Hope you enjoyed this episode. I would have another follow-up video to make, to be fair, because there's one specific thing I haven't covered, which is useState and how that library comes into play and how it can help us in our application. So let me know if you want to see that. Hope you're having a great day. I'm loving and living life, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.